What's up, Hoop Reporters? It's your boy Manny here, and welcome to another edition of the Hoop Report, the NAI Women's Basketball Podcast. Got another coach's interview here and lined up for you, Mr. Coach Mark Vaugh. Coach, thank you so much for coming on and being another coach that I get to interview and be able to just break down a little bit. As when this is coming out, it'll probably be 2 or so weeks into the season, but right now we're recording this the week before seasons and games get played, so it'll be a little bit of might be some projecting in there, but for the most part, I just want to talk about, obviously, the preseason, how it's going for you. We talked a little bit about it before we got on air, and then kind of your journey to this point now, being year 2 over at Cumberlands, Tennessee. But first things first, like always, Coach, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely, man. I think it's awesome what you do. Just kind of getting the women's game out there at the NAI level. So just excited to be here.
The excitement's all mine, Coach. We'll get right into it. You're going to be year 2 for you, but we'll talk about how you got here. It's very, very, very important. As you're entering year 2, you're not new to the Mid-South. We talked a little bit about it over the phone. You've been in the Mid-South for, I think this will be now 9 years, including assistant coach stuff.
Roughly.
Obviously, you're coming from Bethel, and we're definitely going to touch a little bit on Bethel and how everything went out there. But my first question is, what is your biggest takeaway from the Mid-South, just in general? Not just as a head coach or an assistant coach, but just in general, in your time there, what has been your biggest takeaways from one of the best conferences in the NAIA?
There's no built-in wins. I think we played 8 straight games last year against top 12 teams. So I look at it on the good side of it, because if you can compete in this league, then you can compete anywhere. And I think that shows when teams from the Mid-South do go to the national tournament. And every game, I think every coach in our league could be a Hall of Fame coach. Like, if you really think about it, and then not to jump ahead to another question, but, like Chris at Bethel, 20-plus years. Ginger's at Campbellsville, 20-plus years. If you go to Lindsey Wilson, John's been there 20-plus years. Cumberlands, Kentucky, Rick Reeves, 20-plus years. So it's like, I get to coach against some of the best coaches in the nation. So it's pretty exciting.
No, absolutely. And then you got a lot of the younger coaches that are going into a lot of year 2s now that had a great year 1 and then are building for the future of the next 20-plus years. So I'm very excited to see what the Mid-South does as that transition does happen. Being an assistant coach at Bethel, what were some moments that prepared you to be a head coach in that same conference? Like, was that the goal when you were at Bethel to eventually be a head coach and be in the Mid-South? Did that just kind of happen on its own? Like, what was the process in there in that story?
I was lucky. I started to coach at the college level at age 19. So I got and that was volunteer stuff, but then I really got a chance when I was like 22 to be a head assistant. And someone told me a long time ago, just prepare every day like you are the head coach. So was it a big step? Yes. I did learn a lot from Coach Nelson. I mean, proof's in the pudding with him, right? Runs a great program. But when you prepare for it every day, it's not much of a shock. Like, I think the biggest thing was off the court stuff. I had a 3-month-old baby when we were moving, trying to find, my wife was trying to find a job. We're trying to find a house, all in a matter of about 3 weeks. So that part was, pretty hectic. But when it came to the basketball part, I was pretty confident in what I've done and just the people that I've got to learn under.
No, absolutely. And what specifically, when you talk about that preparation, how do you prepare to be a head coach in the Mid-South when you play against top teams every other night? There are no off nights, no matter who you're playing against, no matter where you're playing against, whether it's at home or on the road. What goes into that preparation, especially once we get to the conference side of things in the later parts of the year?
I would say scouting was huge, but I got to do that at a bunch of different levels. I really enjoyed doing the scouts. The little things, like being the first one at the gym, being consistent, like good or bad, you still got to have a good attitude. You can't just be the man when you're winning, right? So just showing up every day and proving to the girls in the program that you're there to work, you're there to win, but you also can have fun doing it. So I like the girls to get to know Mark, quote unquote, before they know Coach Vaughn. just because it is two different things. Like for 2 hours a day, you got to be that guy, right? But then the rest of the time, like I like that the girls get to know my family, come over and eat dinner, just come in the office and kick it. So I think relationships are huge. But I didn't really know if it was going to be the Mid South or not as a head coaching job. That wasn't really like a goal, but God's great, right? So just kind of left the door open, and here we are.
When the opportunity did come to be in the Mid South and stay kind of where you've made a home for lack of a better word, was it a right away? I know you said it, it wasn't the plan, but when that opportunity did come, were you eager to do it, or did you really take some time and say, maybe I want to go somewhere else, or no, I want to stay here and I want to be able to continue to grow what I've already been doing in the Mid South?
Kind of both. Obviously, had to talk to the family about it. And me and my wife, she knew I wanted to coach back when I was 23. So, like, really wanted to coach. So, we just kind of made a deal. Like, we didn't want to move too far from home because West Tennessee's home. And I'm telling you, I just got very, very blessed to get this opportunity because it was 2.5 hours away from home. Cumberland's a great university. It's in a great location. I mean, we're 20 minutes from Nashville. It just really I couldn't be more blessed for this to be my head coaching job, my first one.
Absolutely. And what was, we talked a lot about, welcome your college moment for players. As a head coach, what was your welcome to head coach college moment? What was it, whether it was a game, a practice, a funny moment, whatever, something off the court that maybe not a lot of people know about? What was that moment where it kind of hit you like, I am a head coach at the college level and I'm a head coach in one of the best programs up and coming in the country?
Really, what we talked about, like always preparing, but nothing prepares you just like for that first national anthem. Because I'll never forget standing there, and I'm always used to being like second, third in line, and at that point you don't really think about it, right? When you're the assistant, you're just like, man, I hope I call out this play right. Like that's all I was worried about when I was an assistant, not messing up. And then uh, that national anthem hit, and you just kind of close your eyes and think about like how you got there, like how blessed you are to have the family that I have, the support group that I have, the players that I got to coach. So I would say that first national anthem really kind of hit me hard.
I'm not gonna lie, Coach, that's an answer I'm going to hold on to for a long time. Like those type of things you don't really think about, and I could definitely see how that can kind of hit you, especially that first one, whether first game, first home game, first conference playoff, whatever the case may be. I can definitely see how that one hits you. I really appreciate that answer and that insight. Moving on now to your team. What was it like having the team you had last year? Again, being a year one coach, that first team can make a lot, moving forward in your coaching career, whether, however long it is and all those kind of things. What was it about that team last year? What was it that is going to leave an imprint to start off your college coaching career at the head coaching level?
I'm hoping that it set just kind of like the groundwork of hard work. And I've said this to a bunch of people, my buddies that call me, I mean, other coaches. We weren't a bad basketball team. We struggled in the Mid South, and there's a difference. If we're in another league, we could have got maybe some feel good wins, and then everybody's happy, and then everyone's getting to play so many minutes. That's just not how it works in this league. But with that team, every night people that played us knew they were getting a dogfight. Like they did not quit. Our defense last year was, I'd give it an A. Like, we held people 12 to 14 below their average. We just couldn't really score the ball. But that team every day came to work, never had bad attitudes. And I really am thankful for that group because it's hard to play when you've lost 13 in a row, and you can never tell with them, or at least I couldn't. So if they did, they hit it pretty well.
No, and that was literally what I was saying when we got our conference previews a few months ago when we got to the Mid-South. Like, again, on paper, you look at it and you probably would have said, wow, this team really struggled. But I knew what the Mid-South was. Like, I know how deep that conference goes, and it goes even the conference tournament. You saw Bethel got hot at the right time, and they ran off a really great run. I knew this team was not – you guys were not a bad team. just in a tough conference. And again, the offense was definitely going to be the biggest thing for sure. My question would be, going through those lumps and going through those type of things, what has prepared you moving into year 2 now, where, it might not be a big change, but the game is going to be a lot different. The returning players now understand the style you want to play at, the level you want to play at. What are those few things that you're going to be taking on to year 2 now, heading into a few weeks from now?
Yeah, I think that obviously we do have a lot of new pieces that we'll get to, and there's always that learning curve, right, when you get into a new program. But majority of the players coming back, I'll just how much it's changed is I can put the practice plan in the gym and let them get going. Like I can't always be the one that's bringing the energy, every day and being a leader that way. So just being able to leave the practice plan in the locker room, I know that the girls that have been here can get us rolling, get us where we need to be, and then it's just more fluid, I guess would be the correct answer or correct word. Um, they get what we're trying to do. They know what level we want to do it at, and it's just been a little more smooth.
No, absolutely. And before we get to some of those returners and some of those new players, I do want to highlight a key player who won't be suiting up for the Phoenix this year, Kayla Gordon. 11 points per game, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Great just impact player on both sides of the ball. What was it like coaching her for her last season of college basketball? What do you think the impact was, not just on the court, but in the program, to be able, it can be hard for your last year to go out the way that she did, but what did you see from her that she liked the challenge? She enjoyed it. She knew that it was for the future, and it wasn't might be now, but it's going to be paid off for it in a couple years from now.
Um, it was it was pretty cool getting to come into a program and coach one of the better guards in the league. I will say it was not easy to get her to come back. So I did have to. I called her a lot because I was like, I need you got to come back. I got to have you out there. And she's actually still with the program. She's going to be our GA this year.
We love those.
So it's cool to see even now. So sometimes you're so you got blinders on when you're in a certain situation, and you know you don't see the big picture. Now she's on the other side of the clipboard. So like she'll come in my office and like we'll discuss practice. And it's cool just to pick her mind too, because like I said, sometimes you're so close to things, myself included, that you miss small things that people can see from different angles. So I really enjoyed getting to coach Kayla. She's a great young lady. I mean, she's on top of her stuff. She beats me to the office. She is always ready for practice. So, and I think she's still hungry for some wins, right? Because you don't, yeah, you're not playing anymore, but you're still a part of the program. So I'm excited. It was awesome to coach her last year, but I'm really excited to see what she can do this year as a GA.
Did that kind of come to a shock to you when she wanted to be a GA? Was that something that you were fully prepared for, but you thought there could be a possibility to do?
I think that's how we got her to come back. To be honest, I promised her a GA spot. So
I love it. We love those stories. I just feel like I'm finishing up my GAing at St. Thomas this year, and I didn't know about it going into college. Like that was a thing at all levels, obviously. But whenever anybody asked me about it, just from the GA position as a whole, not just for women's basketball, but as a whole, I always say it's one of the best things, one of the best decisions you can ever make. It sets you up for so many experiences, especially at small schools. It sets you up for so much hands-on experience that you just can't get a lot of other places. So I'm definitely excited for her to be a part of that on the other side now. And I will say, Kaylee is right. When you go on the other side, things look a lot different. Things work a lot different, but it's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to have some great moments for sure. Now a player that has returned a year 3 now for, I hope I say this right, Amelia Tarpley?
Tarpley, yeah.
The incoming junior. I did not know what the phrase sophomore slump meant. I think she had a great year. 11, almost 9 rebounds, 9 double-doubles. She looked like a seasoned vet in only year 2. What makes you excited for year 3 leap? Well, what is it about that third year that you think maybe it all comes clicking for her on the court?
I think half of it with Tarpley is calming down a little bit on the court, right? But I tell her all the time, like I'd rather have players that I gotta like, chill out a little bit beside, instead of trying to get them going. Um, she's just a consistent person. Um, you know, when I got the job, talked to her, I remember from little spurts of recruiting, and she's got a very high motor. There's not a rebound that she doesn't think she can get, and she's going to do whatever it takes to win. So I think this year the game's slowing down for her, like when she needs to turn it up to 100, and then when she kind of just needs to, like, you're out of the play, let's not get a cheap foul 94 feet away from the bucket, right? So I'm excited about it. I think that and this will be everybody that's returning won't play as many minutes, right? Because really last year we were only 6 deep. So, if you're playing 32 minutes a game, like, your fatigue will make you make bad decisions. So I'm excited to see her and some of the other returners get a chance to really have a full season of consistency.
For Tarpley, when you talk about, and not just her, but players in general, when they slowing down, obviously it's definitely easier said than done. Was it you two kind of having one-on-ones, watching film, understanding those, or was it just kind of her going through that last year and now kind of coming into the preseason of, hey, I got to do better and making that conscious effort on the court? Where was that adjustment made, so to speak, for her style and speed of play?
I'm a big film junkie. I think that it never lies, right? So me and her watched a lot of film at the end of last year. We've watched practice film from this year, and just showing the good with the bad. Everyone likes to hang on the negativity and, like, man, coach was on me today in film. But you got to realize that, one, it's to get better. Two, you do really good things. But imagine if we can cancel out those 3 or 4 bad decisions we make, and maybe that's 3 to 4 more possessions that we're getting a game. So her just being coachable, really, and because she's very athletic. So, like, if she can slow down and actually let the defense adjust before she's making moves and things like that, um, I don't think there's any reason she can't be first team all conference.
I love that, and I actually have the same level of expectations for her this year. Meanwhile, a possible X factor, a player that I think maybe, I say X factor in the sense of not that she's going to be overlooked or under the radar, but I just think that maybe people aren't ready for the leap that is coming. It is Ever Walker. 9.7 points per game last season. It seems like a very solid stat line, and it is, but I think she could be very big in the scoring department for you all this year. Is that where you see her impact being, or is there something else, another part of her game that she has worked on, or that you two have talked about in the offseason that you want her to be better at going into this season?
Scoring for sure. She's got the ability. She can get extremely hot in some games. I think being more consistent with it. And like I said, a lot of minutes last year. A lot of primary ball handling. If Kayla Gordon got in foul trouble, so it's. I think her role will be a little different. I expect her to score in volumes. Maybe not as much time, but like I tell her all the time, if you're in, you got to get your shots up. And then probably just defending, being a leader consistently. Even if it's not your spot, like, you still have to tell people that that don't know how we run it, like, this is where they're supposed to be. Just being more vocal. But yeah, I'm hoping she'll take that leap up. Like, I'd love to see 13 points a game, 14 points a game, but I think that it'll happen just with work and being consistent.
No, absolutely. And again, we talked about for Walker the scoring and even Tarpley, and you mentioned the offensive side of the ball last year was definitely the biggest thing you guys wanted to improve on. What is the focus going into the season for the offense? You being a film junkie, I'm sure you've broken it down on how you want the offense to flow more, whether transition, half court, going from one to the other. So what has been kind of a few points going in from the coaching staff this season in the off season going to get ready for everything?
Value the possession. I think last year we got a little haywire with it. We still want to get out and run. If I don't have to call a set all year, we'll be really good. Like, we can just get out and go, get some early paint touches, and then be able to flow into it without having to look at the bench or, like, stop dribbling and look at me, because last year it was so much learning that it really wasn't very fluid. So now we know if we can't get anything early, what we're getting into. And what I like about it is everybody should be able to run it from every position. So then it makes it pretty hard to scout. So I think we'll be better in that aspect and just not turning the ball over. I mean, we would force people into 25 turnovers, but we would have 25 turnovers or more, right? So it's like shooting yourself in the foot. But I think that got addressed as well with our recruiting.
Absolutely, and we're definitely going to get to the recruiting on how it played out for you all. The last question I have from the offensive side of things, being a year one head coach, what goes into building an offense? Because I feel like that's kind of an underlooked at or underthought about element of coaching in any level, not just in college, but when you're a head coach, obviously you're looking at building an offense, you're looking at those type of things. Do you get information? You obviously get some stuff from where you've been, but how much of where you've been culminates with what you like and what you like to run? Because obviously, even though you were at Bethel with Coach Nelson, maybe you wanted to run the offense a little bit differently. Maybe you want to do certain things a little bit differently. So how do you create an offense as a first time head coach, trying to build something that you like, that you know, that you can articulate to the ladies? What is the process like?
Um, that's a good point. I think you take good and bad from everywhere you've been. Um, like I said, I was lucky when I got the assistant job at Bethel because I got to do scouts in the Mid South. So I'm taking things that I like from all different coaches, kind of putting it on my own notebook, and really, it comes down to players for sure. You got to get the right kind of players to run your stuff, but I think habits, like early, it's habits, and the players might get bored with it early because you drill it every day. But then once they're in the game and it's coming natural to them, and now we're getting easy buckets, that's when they start buying in, right? And last year we didn't really have that moment. We had like a 6 game winning streak, and the sun's brighter, when you're winning. So everyone's like really buying into it. And then we just ran into that buzzsaw, the Mid South, and you don't get those feel good. Like it's hard for the kids to see how much better you're getting when it's not showing on the scoreboard.
Absolutely, and I know that can be definitely a hard thing, and that's kind of perfect segue into the new faces that we're going to be seeing this year. With that note on how rough it might look at if a recruit never heard of the program before goes to the website and sees how the season went, what was the pitch? What were your notes that you wanted to talk about to all the recruits, or who were you looking at for the recruits and like the person that you're recruiting? How did you use last year's tough season as a way to find people that would want to be a part of a program that's going to be much better than they were last year, but it's kind of hard to see that right now in the summer or in the fall?
Your players are your best recruiters. Um, and I think it speaks a lot to our staff that we only had one player leave. So I think from before you dive into the basketball side of it, how we travel, we don't really get on vans a lot. We take charter buses. The gear you get, we swag everybody out. I'm a big believer, like you got to look good. Um, we got 3 new jerseys, 2 new practice sets of jerseys. I mean, like big times where you make it, and that's just what I preach to recruits. Um, and the fact that I'm not leaving. I don't have any plan of going anywhere, doing anything else. Like my family's happy, um, happy wife, happy life, right? So like, I just preach to them the consistency of how we work because I've got a blueprint. I've been at good universities. I've worked under some good coaches. So we're really just preaching the future to them, showing them how close we were to beating some top 12 teams. And it's crazy how quick it can turn around. So I'm really, really excited about the girls that we got coming in.
No, absolutely. And like you said, it's one recruiting class, one summer, one season away from everything changing and us saying remember when things were like they were, and now look at how it is. But talk to me about some of those girls. Talk to me about the new faces that you're most excited for joining the program, that you're really looking for, and the impact you see for all these ladies.
Yeah, so we'll start with Ty Buckley. She is a transfer from Mississippi College. Uh, can score at all 3 levels. Big guard, not afraid of the moment, which I like. And she just makes everybody better. Like, yeah, she's a great scorer, but man, she can set you up for success. She can rebound. She can defend. Um, I'm really excited about her. And one of the main things I preached to her during the recruiting thing was, I want to win, and I want to win at a high level. And she bought into that, came on some visits. Um, and really, when girls come on visits, I let them hang out with the team because every coach pretty much has the same pitch, right? So I think that after a season like last year, if your girls are still bought in, I think that speaks a lot to the recruit. We also got Sydney. She's from West Alabama. She's going to come in. She'll be our point guard. Very solid with the ball, makes the right plays. Riley Long, she was actually with us last year, but she ended up taking a red shirt post player D2 from Texas A&M International. I'm looking forward for Riley to have a big season. And then Julia Vartness, she's from Green Hills. She's a freshman. I think we found a diamond in the rough with her. I mean, she's a player. She's 6 foot, 6'1". She can play the 3 through 5. She's just a winner. She competes every day. She's very coachable. And then Braylee Bushman is a Tribeca transfer, D2. She played at Page High School, which is pretty local, and very athletic, can get out in transition, can score in high volume. So that pretty much wraps up that class. But with them mixed in with some of the returners that we had, I'm excited to coach them.
What was the geographical focus with this recruiting class? Because it definitely seemed like there were definitely some local kids, a few that maybe you had to go out of state for. What was that a focus for you? Do you focus on that when you're recruiting? Like, does it matter for you that you want to build a local relationship, or is it more of like 50-50, whatever is kind of out there, and however that summer kind of guides me throughout the process?
Right. I don't think it's not like a mindset, but I don't really have to travel very far. Middle Tennessee is loaded with women's basketball. I mean, you got Nashville, Murfreesboro, everything local around here, and it's some of the best basketball in the nation, high school wise. Excuse me. And with that being said, too, I really go off like what our team needs. Like with Ty, I mean, she's from Mississippi. She kind of just name came across my desk, looked her up, got her on the phone. Kind of chopped up some film where I could see her being successful in what we do. But local is big for me, especially starting a program. I think the more local kids you can get, the more people that come to your games, the bigger crowd you have, the more support you have. So I would say that I would like to recruit inside out. But if there's a player that I think we need, I'll go anywhere, just to be honest.
When you talk about the recruiting need, in a day and age where transferring has become as normal as it's ever been and probably ever will be, where's that land on your recruiting table when it comes to, I want to be able to build for the future. I want to have freshmen that I'm going to be here for 3-4 years. I want to be able to also have transfers who have played at this level and want to continue to be playing now for me. Where does that fall in your priority when it comes to the recruiting process?
I think it's more year by year. But like this year we do have Ty and Sid have 1 year left, and we've got younger players that might not be ready yet. We actually signed a freshman point guard who ended up having an injury her last game of her senior year. And her name Xaviana Hawkins. She's from Good Pasture. She can flat out go. And it's just going to take a little more time for recovery and for, her to get back in basketball shape. So it's good to have players that are 1 year players, can still make us competitive. And then that next year you have freshmen and sophomores that are ready to go into their roles. So it's kind of year by year, but eventually I'd like it where it's just every coach wants kids that can coach for 4 years. I mean, I really think that's how you build a program. But if you can get those kids that got a year or two left that are bought in, I think it can make you competitive year in and year out.
Absolutely. Going off of last season and going into this year, how much, because obviously we can't ignore how last year went. You go through what you go through for a reason. You might not never understand it in the moment. It might not pay off in the moment. It might pay off in a couple months, weeks. You never know. How much are you going to harp on the tough moments last year, but not dwell on it too much and move forward in the sense of if the ladies, point in the year, practices aren't that great or games aren't that great, and you let them know like, hey, remember where you were last year, or even if it is going well, the winning streak is piling up, the practices are getting great, but you let them know, hey, don't forget what the other side felt like when you were on that side. How much are you going to kind of balance that between don't forget where you've been, but also understand that we are moving away from that for a reason, and there is a how on how we're doing that.
Don't really speak on it much, to be honest. Really never. Just I really think everything's back to being consistent. You can't really have bad days. You can't take days off. Our girls know that, and I think the ones that were here last year are more hungry. Um, they don't want to go through that again, right? I don't want to go through it again, and I think that it's funny. People say you can't coach out of fear, like like be mean or whatever. But like, I fear a lot of things. I fear losing. I fear like being a bad dad. Like that stuff makes you better, right? So I tell them all the time, like, yeah, be terrified of it. If you want to work hard enough to get better, like, yeah, we don't want to go through that again. So back to your question, no, I don't really preach on it too much. They know what we got to do. They know how we got to do it. So it's just getting the job done.
I will say, and I always say this, especially in certain situations, being scared or nervous, that tells me you care. Because if you didn't care, you probably would not be scared of failing or of losing or that kind of stuff. But if you're scared of it, that to me means that you care. You care enough that you don't want it to go that bad. Maybe you don't care to a high level, whatever, but just that little fear will let me know, all right, they care enough to be able to make sure that this goes the way that they want it or the way that we want it to go. So I definitely think that having that healthy level of fears is definitely an important thing. Is there, going to the numbers from last year, I can be a big numbers guy at times. Is there a specific stat or you wanted to tell even the players, hey, we have to be better at this? I know you mentioned turnovers, and was that the stat, or was there a different stat that maybe kind of fell through the cracks and you said, I feel like if we do this better or we cut this down, it'll help get the wins where we want them to be at?
Turnovers, definitely. That's no secret. I would say overall shooting percentage, but when you're not getting very clean looks, your percentage ain't going to be great. Um, I usually harp on the good with them too about rebounding. Like I thought we rebounded the ball really well last year, especially for our size. The way we defended was great. So turnovers, shot selection, and just overall quicker pace. Like the our word we use every day is attack because I feel like last year we were backpedaling a lot. We were always the ones getting attacked, and so we just have to apply more pressure to people.
When it comes to the turnovers part, where is the focus on? Because when it comes to turnovers, there's a lot of things that go into it. Yes, you could have a lot of turnovers, but maybe play a faster pace. So now obviously the turnovers are just going to naturally be higher. Maybe you're still learning the offense, so that's why there's a lot of turnovers. What was the message that you tagged along with, hey, our turnovers got to be better, and this is what I mean by better in this sense?
Value the ball. I think we would get stops and we would get runouts, but we weren't valuing the ball. We weren't pushing the ball up the sideline and then getting a paint touch and finding open shooters. Um, there's a couple. I think fatigue had a lot to do that. I really do when I go back and watch it, especially towards like the later half of the season. I mean, we would just take the ball out and nonchalantly throw it in, and then we turn around and our point guard was still getting open. Like little things like that, just not valuing the possession.
At the time of this episode, you have played 2 games already. But before we talk about those 2 games, talk to me about the schedule as a whole. That non-conference part can tell a lot. Lex and I like to say, if your schedule is set up a certain way, it means no one sets up games to lose. No one's out there recruiting, getting games to lose. And you guys have a very solid tournament potential teams on this list. You've got Johnson, St. Xavier, and even teams that just missed out on the national tournament last year, including some teams like UT Southern. What went into going to find these coaches? What went into go and find these teams that you wanted to put on the schedule to let not just people out there know, but people in the Mid-South know, like, hey, this is not going to be the same team that was last year. This is going to be a different, hungrier team, and we're preparing for that gauntlet that is the Mid-South.
Uh, if you go back to last year, at the end of the season, we had the number 2 strength of schedule in the nation, and I didn't really make that schedule because I was just getting here, but I don't mind those schedules because you get tested. Like Johnson, we're going to play them twice. They're a national tournament team. Um, I think UT Southern should have got in last year. If I go just by off the eye test of who I watched and what they did, and Ross does a great job down there at UT Southern, so I'm excited to go down there and play them. Um, Really, in the conference, you only have 12 built-in conference games because there's only 7 of us. So honestly, a lot of it's sending out emails to everybody and see who sticks. Who wants to come here and play. Maybe you can get a home and home. But last year we were on the road 9 straight games, and it was early in the year, which I thought was good because the team got to know each other, got to know me. But this year we got a couple more home games early, and hopefully you get those at home, and that just builds momentum going into the Mid South and to those road games in December.
You mentioned Coach Ross, and obviously we had him on an interview a few episodes ago. Being a first-year head coach, just like yourself, were there conversations throughout the year? Did you guys meet up? Did you guys talk about it? Did you talk to other coaches who maybe were in the same boat as you, or when they were? If you're looking at a coach that's been in the game for a little bit longer now, do you guys talk about it? Kind of talk about the progress, talk about the season, talk about those type of things, and what do you learn from those conversations?
Ross is very knowledgeable about the game. Like he's one of the better minds that I've got to pick. We would talk more about culture than anything. Because I used to ask him all the time. I'm like, man, y'all press 94 feet the entire game. Like, I would love to see one of your practices. And this is coming from a guy that's going to play him. He sent me an email like 3 minutes later with like 7 practices on it. He's like, yeah, here you go. And I think in this profession, and I'm young, um, so I maybe I'm ignorant to it, but I just feel like there's so many people out to get each other. And when you can find somebody like Ross or Nelson or Ginger at Campbellsville, like they're actually there to help. And to know that you have support of other coaches and you're not on an island by yourself is it's a pretty cool feeling. I've met a lot of great people through coaching.
No, absolutely not. And I can harp that sentiment with what we've been doing here for the past few months of all the coaches such as yourself, such as Ross, as Coach Nelson, that have reached out and interviews, helping behind the scenes, stuff like that. So I can definitely attest to how that feels in a day and age where, yeah, it does feel like sometimes it's a race, and it can be a little tough, little cutthroat at times, but it definitely is refreshing when you have people helping you along the way. When you talk about that word culture, what does that mean to you? What does culture mean? I got one more question for you that we'll talk about those games that we I mentioned earlier. But what does culture mean? Because I feel like for everybody, they throw that word around a lot, especially in sports. They throw that word around a lot, especially at the college level. But what does it mean to you when you say culture?
I think it's what you build your program on, as in there's certain things that are non-negotiables. Um, there's certain things that have to be done day in and day out. And once you set your culture and you've had it and you've had players come through the program, that's when it becomes fun, right? You start winning a lot of games, it kind of runs itself. And we're still getting there, but there's no doubt that we're heading the right way when it comes to that aspect.
On that note, when it comes to culture, and I know it's never done. It's never done. At what point do you feel, or when do you say we have a culture? Because I think you can agree. We know there's no culture set just yet. We're only in year 2. We still got a few more years to do that.
Right.
When will you feel that the culture is set? It's always going to improve. It's always going to get better. We always got to continue to work at it. But when do you feel like the culture is set?
When the team starts coaching the team, like when and I don't mind being the bad guy, and that comes with wearing the hat of being the head coach. Sometimes you have to be. But when your players are policing themselves in the locker room, on campus, I think you've done your job when it comes to laying the foundation. Obviously, like you said, it's an everyday thing. Culture doesn't happen overnight. Like you got to build it day by day. You got to be consistent with it. But once your team buys into it, and I'm talking from your starting point guard to the managers, when everyone's on the same page, then that's when you can kind of tell everybody like, here we come, right?
Absolutely.
So it's a very exciting time, and I knew it'd be a little stressful when I got the job, but I'm telling you, man, this place they support you. The players are bought in, so I'm just extremely excited to be here.
No, absolutely. And like you said, like we said, culture, it's a day-to-day thing. It's going to have highs and lows, but I think that's a good way to put it. When you don't need to be the bad guy and only have to pick, you can pick and choose when you're the bad guy. I think that's a really good way of looking at it. The last question, like I mentioned, those 2 games, you're going to have 2 games, Oakwood University and Bryan College. Obviously, we want to be 2-0. That's obviously the goal, but not aside from the record, aside from the wins and losses, after those 2 games and just a short part of the season early on or around Halloween, where do you want the team to be? What are you going to be looking at in the film sessions, talking to players, talking to your coaches about, all right, we're off to a good start. Again, wins and losses aside.
I probably would say it kind of dips back into the culture thing. But I think culture starts if you are more happy for your teammates' success than your own. Like I love bench energy. Like bench energy is one of the big things we preach. Um, it keeps everybody involved, and it's just everyone feeds off the bench. So to answer your question, after 2 games, obviously I want to see like our offense clicking. I want to see it more fluid. I want us to talk at a high level defensively, and above all, be healthy. But I think that you'll be able to tell pretty early in game 1 or game 2 if we're taking those right directions to where we want to go as a program, starting with culture, and then just unselfish play, making the right read. Basketball, let's not make it harder than it is. Make 2 people guard 1 and make the right play. So I'd like to see those things going in the right direction. And like you said, it'll be early, but I know they're tired of practice, and so am I. So I think we're ready to get started.
We were at practice and our head coach she mentioned it. These are the dog days. These are the dog days when it's just practice, practice after practice. Inter squads and scrimmages can only do so much. You want to get that first. You want to get to that first scrimmage, let alone you want to get to that first game. So I can definitely attest to that. But coach, this was an eye-opening experience, and I've said that for every single coach's interview, but it's because it is always an eye-opening, being able to pick the brains of multiple first-year head coaches, pick the brain of multiple coaches who've been a part of the game for a long time. It's cool to see the dynamics and even seeing the intertwine. Like I didn't know that you and Coach Ross talked. You were the one that told me about you being at Bethel, like confirming it, at least you being at Bethel and stuff. So it's kind of cool to see people that I'm talking to also have interconnected moments throughout their journeys and stuff. So I'm very excited for that. But again, I appreciate the time. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely, man. Once again, I appreciate what you do for the game, and look forward to following you all year.
I appreciate it. We'll do the same. That'll do it for this episode, guys. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.